Was W.D. Farad the same person as Wallace Ford? To clarify, I'm not claiming that Master Farad Muhammad was white. I believe he's an immigrant from the East. I'm also not claiming that he was a con man. I'm not claiming that Wallace D. Ford was his original name. I do believe that was an alias. I'm not claiming that Farad was Muhammad Abdullah, as Warith ad-Din would later claim. But first, we have to look at the photographic evidence. This was a picture printed in the Detroit Free Press, November 24th, 1932. You can see Farad seated on the bottom left. He's pointing at a book saying, "This is my authority." The other two individuals are police detectives in the Detroit Police Department. This is another photo from the same incident. This was printed in a different newspaper. This is in the Des Moines Tribune, printed on November 29th, 1932. And you could see Wallace Farad's name very clearly mentioned here in the article. He's sitting next to Yugon Ali. And of course, Detective Snyder is the standing detective, and Oscar Berry is the one sitting to Farad on the left side of this picture. Now you compare the Wallace Ford mugshot to the Detroit Free Press photo, and it's pretty evident that you're looking at the exact same person. Same protruding ears, same nose, same mouth, same chin. This is the exact same person. And don't take my word. Look at Amazon Recognition. This is the facial recognition software which found with 99.5% certainty that this is the same person, which is impressive because the photos are taken at slightly different angles. And this was discovered by Beatty and Morris, and you can find it in their book, W.D. Farad's First Footsteps in America, The Trail in Oregon, page 372. If you'd like, you can just get Amazon Recognition yourself, and you can compare the photos. The first objection is that the photo is fake, the Detroit Free Press photo. It's not. You can look it up yourself. Go to newspapers.com, get a subscription, and check the newspapers. If you don't trust newspapers.com, you can go to Detroit and you can go to the library, go to the microfilm, and look up the original newspaper yourself. And of course, Farad was active in 1932. He was active all the way until 1934. So if they were fake, he would have claimed that they were fake. But there's no extant claim of Farad or Elijah or anyone else saying that the Detroit Free Press or Des Moines Tribune's photos were fake. Lastly, Supreme Minister John Muhammad, who was the brother of Elijah Muhammad, even claimed in a video that this was W.D. Farad. He references the Detroit Free Press. He mentions the byline, "Here is my authority," and you can find this on Alam Khan Publications account. The second objection is that Elijah Muhammad said it was a phony. Yes, he did say that. That's true. The problem is that the article says, quote, "The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has not only offered to confront the phony impostor invented by Hearst Press, but has exposed the deceit and offered to pay $100,000. Now, problem, Hearst never invented the phony. This is a picture that you can find in the FBI files. The same picture, of course, or the same individual can be found again in the Detroit Free Press and Des Moines Tribune photo. Also, there's a straw man here because Elijah, quote, offered to confront the phony imposter, but Hearst never claimed, or the author, Montgomery, never claimed that this was somebody that he had or that the police had in their custody right now. He was simply reproducing the photo. So Elijah offering to confront the phony didn't make any sense. Elijah said, quote, "Get his picture from Detroit Police Court there or send it from Washington." Again, Montgomery did get the photo from the federal government. So that's the photo. Montgomery also had the last word on this topic. So after Elijah Muhammad published this in 1965, Montgomery would republish a photo of Master Farad Muhammad, the mugshot photo, in the San Francisco Examiner, February 28th, 1965. Now, the $100,000, of course, Elijah Muhammad never put the money in an escrow account. So when Hazel Barton did come forward to collect the money, this issue was never brought up again. Now, some say that Elijah Muhammad could never be wrong. After all, he's a messenger of God. Remember that in the Supreme Wisdom, Elijah Muhammad was, quote, very near correct, meaning he's not correct on everything. After all, Islam is mathematics and mathematics is Islam. The interesting thing about mathematics is that it's either right or wrong. It's not ever near correct. So there are issues where Elijah Muhammad will be just wrong. And here are some examples. Elijah Muhammad said, or rather he wrote in the Afro-American, July 1st, 1933, quote, "The white man is forbidden within 50 square miles of the holy city of Mecca." That, of course, is incorrect. White people go to Mecca all the time. Light-skinned people go to Mecca. Masafrad Muhammad's mother apparently was white. Whether she visited Mecca or not, we don't know, but it's clear that whites can go to Mecca. Elijah Muhammad also said in 1964 in his Japanese interview that he had 8 children, but by 64 he already had other children, numerous children from other women. At the time, Clara Muhammad was living in Cairo with their son Akbar Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad can be wrong, and we can see this from the theology of time, where he says that, well, he says that Vietnam is Hindu, that, well, he would mix up Hinduism and he would mix up Buddhism with it. So you can see Hinduism's been taught by them. God taught me for 35,000 years. We know from the Supreme Wisdom that that's not Hinduism, but Buddhism. And he goes on and says Hindu, Hindu, Hindu again and again. So it was not just him misspeaking once, but he would mix the two up even in other interviews. Another brother of Elijah Muhammad named Willie Muhammad was apparently shown this mugshot from 1933. And this is the Detroit 1933 mugshot. You can look up the FBI file yourself. So it says, quote, "A photograph of Wallace D. Farad was taken by the Detroit Police Department in 1933, was exhibited to Willie Muhammad, who immediately identified the picture as being, quote, my sweet savior, my all-powerful Allah." Why didn't Elijah Muhammad just release more photos of Farad? After all, he claims in the FBI file that he had other photos of Farad. It would have been much easier to disprove the Hearst claim and the claim of people like myself by just releasing the existing photos that he had of Master Farad Muhammad. But he never did. Wallace Ford even used the name Farad. Here is the World War I draft registration from 1917. Again, this is publicly available. This is a publicly available document. You can see in the top right over here that he calls himself Wallace Wally Dodd Farad, F-A-R-D, and then in brackets it's Ford. So he was calling himself both Farad and Ford all the way back in 1917. You can also see that this registration has a February 26th birth date, which is, of course, Savior's Day. What are the chances? Now, I don't believe that 1893 was his real birth year, but again, Master Farad Muhammad used different aliases and different birth years all the time. As we can see, he used February 26th. He called himself both Wally and Farad, Wally and Ford on this document. What are the chances that Farad and Ford would have the same mother's name? So over here we can see this is the June 7th, 1924 marriage license, and it lists his mother's name as Bobby G. Okay, Baby G. Baby G is the name that he used, that he told Elijah Muhammad and John Muhammad was his mother's name. Now, we also know from this is in California. We know that Master Farad Muhammad lived in California. Well, apparently so did Wally Ford. What about their height and their weight? As it turns out, Wally D. Ford was 5'6". He was 133 pounds. This is very, very close to what we would know about Master Farad Muhammad. You know, sometimes Master Farad Muhammad is 5'5", 5'6", 5'7". A lot of that depends on what kind of shoes you're wearing. He's called 133 pounds, 140 pounds, again, depending on your clothing, depending on weight fluctuations within any healthy person. This is extremely close. It's possible that Elijah Muhammad even knew that he was named Wallace Dodd Ford. Of course, he went by Fred Dodd and Wallace Dodd Ford. Elijah Muhammad, according to Carl Evans in The Messenger, his book, page 247, Elijah Muhammad once booked a flight under the name J. Dodd. According to Elijah Muhammad, Farad enrolled in California University. You can find it in the interview, Honorable Elijah Muhammad interview, part one by Seventh Jewel Productions. He said that Master Farad Muhammad, quote, had enrolled in the California University. He was going to the University of California. As it turns out, University of California was offering courses in San Quentin prison, which Master Farad Muhammad was in between 1926 and 1929. And you can find this paragraph, quote, uh, yeah, inmates were taking correspondence courses with the University of California system. This is from Michael Muhammad Knight's book, The Supreme Wisdom Lessons, page 83. The third objection. I thought the FBI said that it was not definitely determined that Wallace Ford and W.D. Farad were the same person. Well, according to the FBI file, and I encourage you go back and you read it, you can see that they actually are considered the same person. And in some cases, Dr. Wesley Muhammad would just take leads, and sometimes those leads were not always Master Farad Muhammad. And so the FBI agents, among themselves, they would say that they had a lead on someone named Muhammad, and it's not determined if that person is Wallace Farad Muhammad. But again, as you can see, all throughout the FBI files, it says that Farad is Ford. And you can see here, part one, page four, Wally Ford, also known as Wally D. Ford, Wally Ford, Wallace Farad. Okay, March 8th, 1965, Wallace Dodd, alias Farad, Fard, etc., Dodd. Okay, Wallace D. Farad. So they were constantly identifying themselves. As you can see right here, Wallace Farad, alias Ford, Wallace Farad, alias Ford, identical W.D. Farad, alias Allah, etc., etc. Please read the FBI files yourself. Objection 4. I thought the mugshots were destroyed. That's what Dr. Wesley is claiming. It's also not true. Um, this is also from Anton Beatty's, takedown of this argument. He said that the FBI engaged in a cover-up by destroying Farad and Ford files. This is demonstrably misleading. He cites a June 2nd, 1971 memo and various indices, search slips, to suggest that the Bureau deliberately eliminated original documents and photographs to conceal the truth about Farad's identity. In reality, the memo itself makes clear that no original serials were destroyed. It explicitly states that only duplicate copies of serials, letters, articles, memos, and similar materials were eliminated. Okay, so these destruction projects were standard administrative procedures in the FBI and other large institutions undertaken to conserve office space, streamline records, and remove outdated or redundant files. Indeed, some unrelated FBI memos even quantify the square footage saved by these actions. Again, I encourage you to believe your own eyes. Wallace Ford, Wallace Farad, these are clearly the same person. The fifth objection. Someone might look at the official photo and say that the Wallace Farad photos don't look like the official photo. Again, I have to remind you that W.D. Farad was in the Detroit Free Press photo, so that is going to be the most reliable, publicly available photo of Farad. But even if we look at this official photo, we can tell that it has been edited. So you can see brush strokes in the background. That can come from airbrushing. That doesn't typically happen in a normal photograph. We can see that his hair is very, very shiny. If you look at older versions of the photo, you see that the book is actually thinner. Over here it's thicker, over here it's thinner. Of course, why would you make a book thinner? It's clear that this is the earlier one and this is the later one. Similarly, his hair is not shiny in this version. There's also no pen in his pocket in this version. So it's clear that the photo has undergone some kind of evolution over time. According to Warathuddin Muhammad, the son of Elijah Muhammad, It is, quote, a made up photo, a cosmetic photo. His hair was not straight. He used an application to straighten his hair. He says, quote, we have pictures of him that were not freely distributed. In fact, they were kept from the community. Ask yourself why they would be kept from the community. But I have one, and his hair was not parted. His hair was kind of wavy. Again, that's the Farad that we're familiar with. Sixth objection. But how can God go to jail? Again, Master Farad Muhammad was arrested many, many times. And he was arrested for preaching Islam, as we can see in his September 1933 arrest. As for his 1926 arrest, the one that would lead him to going to San Quentin until May 1929, the officer that arrested him was named Raymond Southard. Raymond Southard was actually accused of conducting retaliatory raids against businesses that refused to pay him, quote, protection money. It's possible that these were propped up charges. We're totally open to that possibility. Maybe Master Fraud Muhammad was innocent, or at least partially innocent. Southard later committed a murder-suicide when he asked out a girl. That girl rejected him, and then he killed her and killed himself. So, yes, it is possible these were propped up charges, and we do know that Master Fraud Muhammad did indeed get arrested at the Voodoo murder, 1932, November, and he was arrested again in September 1933. This is public knowledge. And of course, people can change, maybe. Here you have St. Paul. St. Paul was known for persecuting Christians. He would later uh, become a Christian and become arguably the most important Christian in Christianity. Similarly, Master Fraud Muhammad had to grow, had to change, had to learn. After all, it is said that he knew 16 languages and could write 10 of them. Did he have to learn those languages? He clearly didn't know every single language, but rather he had to develop as someone who started as a baby and then studied the white man and then was ready for his mission in 1930. So it's possible that people can change and learn and develop. Of course, in some cases, you find aspects of their past life in their present life. Thank you for watching. So you can check out my book with John Andrew Morrow that I co-wrote with John Andrew Morrow. It's called W.D. Farad, The Man, Myth, and Mystery Behind the Nation of Islam. The link will be in the description. You can also check out Anton Beatty and Kevin Morris's book, W.D. Farad's First Footsteps in America, The Trail in Oregon, as well as Michael Muhammad Knight's The Supreme Wisdom Lessons and John Andrew Morrow's Finding W.D. Farad. Thanks for watching. I bid you all farewell. Assalamu alaikum.